Have you ever walked into a room and felt like someone was seeing a completely different version of reality than you were? They aren't just smart in the way we usually define it. They don't just win at trivia or do mental math. Instead, they seem to possess a hidden layer of perception, a way of connecting dots that shouldn't even be on the same page. For a long time, the American educational system and popular media have painted a very specific and often incorrect picture of what high intelligence looks like. We've been told it's about the straight-A student or the socially awkward professor. But modern neuroscience is telling a much more fascinating story. High IQ isn't just a score on a test. It is a fundamental difference in how the brain's hardware is wired. We're talking about increased neural efficiency, higher synaptic plasticity, and a unique way the prefrontal cortex communicates with the rest of the brain. Today, we are going deep. We aren't looking at the obvious cliches. We are exploring the subtle, research-backed signs that you, or someone you know, possesses an extremely high IQ. By the time we're done, you'll realize that genius isn't just what you know. It's how your biology processes the world. The first sign isn't about having the right answers. It's about how quickly you can change them. In neuroscience, this is called cognitive flexibility. Most people struggle when their worldviews are challenged. Their brains trigger a threat response in the amygdala. However, individuals with extremely high IQs tend to have a more developed Anterior Cingulate Cortex, ACC. This is the part of the brain responsible for error detection and switching between different tasks or thoughts. Data from the Journal of Intelligence suggests that high IQ individuals don't just think better, they rethink better. They can hold two opposing ideas in their mind at the same time without experiencing debilitating cognitive dissonance. They see the world as a series of probabilistic outcomes rather than fixed certainties. Do you find it easy to admit you're wrong when presented with better data? Do you enjoy playing devil's advocate even against your own beliefs? That's not just being open-minded. That's your ACC performing high-level executive functions. If you've ever looked at a complex stock market chart, a piece of music, or even a chaotic social situation and felt like a shape or a trend just jumped out at you, you're experiencing fluid intelligence. This is the ability to solve new problems without relying on previous knowledge. It's heavily linked to the parietal lobe, which processes sensory information and spatial reasoning. In high IQ individuals, the white matter pathways, the high-speed internet cables of the brain, are more organized in this region. This allows for what scientists call neural efficiency. While an average brain has to fire thousands of neurons to solve a puzzle, a high IQ brain fires fewer, more targeted neurons to get the same result. You are a connector. You might be in a meeting about marketing and suddenly realize that a concept from a documentary you watched about ant colonies applies perfectly to your strategy. This cross-disciplinary synthesis is a hallmark of the 140-plus IQ range. There is a specific psychological trait called the need for cognition. For most people, mental effort is taxing and something to be avoided. But for the extremely intelligent, mental effort is actually rewarding. It releases dopamine. This is why high IQ individuals often suffer from chronic boredom. If a task doesn't provide a certain level of complexity, the brain essentially shuts off to save energy. This is often misdiagnosed in American classrooms as ADHD or a lack of motivation. In reality, the brain is simply starving for a higher bit rate of information. Research into BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, shows that intellectually stimulating environments actually trigger the growth of new neurons. A high IQ person isn't just curious because they want to be. They are curious because their brain is physically craving the nutrients of new information to maintain its architecture. Do you have 50 tabs open on your browser right now? Do you go down rabbit holes at 2 a.m. about the history of the Roman Empire or the mechanics of a jet engine? That insatiable hunger is your brain trying to maintain its synaptic density. This one usually surprises people. Original research published in Psychology Today and various evolutionary psychology journals suggests a strong correlation between high IQ and being a night owl. From an evolutionary perspective, our ancestors were biologically programmed to be active during the day. Following the natural rhythm was the safe and average thing to do. However, individuals with higher cognitive capacity were more likely to rebel against these ancestral impulses, staying awake to observe the stars, plan for the future, or engage in creative thought when the rest of the tribe was asleep. A study of over 20,000 American adolescents found that those with higher IQs consistently went to bed later and woke up later than those with lower IQs. It's called the Savannah-IQ Interaction Hypothesis. If your peak clarity happens when the world goes quiet, usually after 10 p.m., it might be an evolutionary marker of your brain's preference for novelty over tradition. There is a common trope that smart people are loners. Neuroscience offers a more nuanced explanation. It's not that high IQ people dislike others. It's that their social processing speed is often out of sync with the group. When you process information at a higher frequency, small talk can feel physically exhausting. It's like trying to download a 4K movie on a 1990s dial-up connection. High IQ individuals often prefer solitude or very small groups of high-bandwidth friends because it allows them to maintain their internal cognitive pace without having to throttle their thoughts for the sake of social cohesion. A study published in the British Journal of Psychology found that while most people become happier as they spend more time with friends, highly intelligent people actually reported lower life satisfaction when they socialized too frequently. You value deep socializing. You'd rather have a 3-hour conversation about the future of AI with one person than attend a party with 50. Having an extremely high IQ isn't a trophy, it's a different kind of responsibility. It means your brain is a high-performance engine that requires specific fuel, deep work, constant novelty, and high-quality sleep to flush out the metabolic waste from all that intense thinking. If you recognized yourself in these signs, the night owl tendencies, the relentless curiosity, the ability to pivot your mindset, know that you aren't weird. You are biologically optimized for a world that is becoming increasingly complex. Your job isn't just to have the brain, it's to build the habits that allow that brain to function at its peak.